Thank you, everyone. And so before we begin the meeting to call it to order, so I'm going to turn it over to Krista for the roll call.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'd like to say Representative Matt Lehman,
It was just this one right here. Otherwise, no split.
as a point of order, someone is not muted. Please mute if you are not speaking. Thanks. Representative Edmund Jordan.
Here.
Thank you. Representative Brenda Carter.
Here.
Thank you. Representative Lana Tice.
Senator, here.
Senator Michael Weber.
Here.
Senator Walter Michael.
Here.
Senator Vicky Sawyer. Assemblyman Jarrett Gandolfo. Assemblywoman Pam Hunter. Representative Meredith Craig.
I'm her legislative aide here on her behalf.
Thank you, Chloe. Representative Ellen Hefner. Representative Jim Dunnigan. Delegate Walter Hall. Senator Mary Felskowski. Representative Barbara Dittrich. Representative Carolyn Hall. Representative Kevin Chambliss. Representative Rita Mayfield. Senator Jason Howell. Representative Sarge Pollock.
I'm here.
Oh, thank you. Representative Bob Foley.
Just narrow. Ma'am, this is
Representative Christian Grant. Representative Mike McFall.
here. Here.
Thank you. Senator Jeff Barta.
Here.
Senator Mark Mann. Representative David LaBeouf.
Here.
Thank you. Senator Justin Boyd. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask you to make a motion to waive the quorum.
All right. And so with that, I'll entertain
Representative
a
Rita
motion
Mayfield is
to
here.
waive the quorum requirement.
Representative Rita Mayfield is here. Please add me.
Thank you.
And Senator George Lang from Ohio is here as well.
Thank you. And I omitted to say if there is anyone else I had not called in the legislators, please announce your presence.
Representative Erica Hancock.
Thank you.
Representative
Thank you.
Representative Tom Oliverson.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, with that, I turn it back to you, Mr. Chair.
All right. And so with that, I believe we do still need to waive the quorum. So I will entertain a motion on that in a second.
I'll take a motion.
All right. So motion by Representative Pollock.
Second.
Second from Rep Foley. All those in favor? So
Aye.
So opposed. All right, so the quorum requirement has been raised. Thank you so much, Krista, for that. And good afternoon, everyone, and good morning to everyone that is not in the Eastern time zone. And thank you so much for taking the time to attend this meeting. I know there's a lot going on. I know there's many people that are affiliated with this meeting that have lost power. I'm expected to get between 24 to 28 inches of snow in my community today. So I know there's a lot of obligations that are on many of you here, and I just got to tell you, I cannot wait for July to come when we have the meeting in Boston. You can actually experience the part of New England that we all love and the reason why we stay here. Um, so do want to say that the purpose of this meeting today is to conduct some business before our April meeting in Louisville. We're going to be continuing the discussion on the NCOIL Model Act regarding life insurers' use of genetic information and taking any comments on the model scheduled for readoption in Louisville. This will help ensure that we move through this agenda in a timely manner when the spring comes, and so I'd like to get started. And first on the agenda, we have the continued discussion on the NCOIL Model Act regarding life insurers' use of genetic information. There's been significant effort that's gone into shaping this model, with thorough consideration being given by the committee and the sponsor throughout the previous year. The goal for today's meeting is to take any final comments on the model so that the committee is prepared to vote on this in the spring meeting. As we've been discussing this issue for over a year, um, both I and the sponsor believe that the model is ready for a vote in Louisville, and we do want to have just some further last opportunities for comments and conversation. I do want to note that the comment letters regarding the model have been posted on the NCOIL website, along with all other materials for this meeting. So again, today's this opportunity to gather any final thoughts before the spring meeting. And with that, I will turn things over to the model sponsor, Michigan State Representative and NCOIL Secretary Brenda Carter. So Representative Carter, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to everyone who has participated in the process throughout the past year. I'm very proud to sponsor this model as it deals with such an important issue. As I mentioned at the beginning of this process, this topic has generated a lot of discussion in state legislatures across the country in recent years, and I think it's a great timing for NCOIL to discuss this issue and develop some guidance for states to consider using. This model is fairly straightforward, and as I mentioned previously, it largely mirrors a law that Tennessee passed a few years ago. This does not seek to outright prohibit life insurers' use of genetic information, as I don't think that's the right approach. Rather, it set forth what I think is some reasonable guardrails around such use. And really, this model somewhat codifies what the current process is right now in terms of life insurance and genetic testing. And I haven't seen yet enough evidence to go in an opposite direction and ban the use of such information. I really do appreciate all the comments that have been submitted throughout this process, and I've incorporated some of them. I'm certainly open to hearing further potential changes, and that's why we're having this discussion today. But overall, I do think the model in its current form is very strong, and I don't anticipate making any drastic changes between now and Louisville. And related to that, I want to stress the overall NCOIL philosophy of developing its models. NCOIL models are meant to be a framework that states can use to add or remove things as they deem fit. If a state wants to use this model as a starting point and make certain modifications or even go in a different direction, that's certainly fine. The important thing is by discussing this issue at a national level and producing guidance, it sends a signal to states that this issue is worth devoting time to, and your legislature should know that these safeguards are important and can be enacted for both consumers and insurers alike. I look forward to hearing the discussion today and hopefully getting this legislation across the finish line in April. So back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Thank you so much, Representative Carter. And now I'm going to turn over the floor to any interested parties. If there are any interested parties that would like to speak on this model, if you could please use the raise hand function in Zoom, and then I will call on you. And then when you're called upon, if you could please announce what organization you're representing. All right, great. So I see Alex Meixner. I see that you have your hand raised. If you could unmute yourself and provide any additional commentary.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Carter. It has been a pleasure working with you through this process. My name is Alex Meixner. I am with the ALS Association, one of many patient-centered organizations that has been intrigued by this, interested in this legislation, and frankly, hoping to move forward the strongest possible draft model bill that would protect not only current enrollees in life insurance from potentially losing their insurance, although that's important, but also protecting those folks that might not yet have chosen to buy life insurance, but might be forced with the choice of going down one of two roads. One is getting genetic testing that could inform their own health future and help them make smarter, more informed choices about their own health. And the other is being able to purchase life insurance, long-term care, disability insurance without the worry that the carriers are going to decide to not provide them with any option to buy coverage or to charge them much more than they would otherwise be charged based on, again, a genetic test, which is not the same thing as identified diagnosed disease. It is a potential likelihood at some point down the road of developing something. It's not a certainty, nor is the certainty of what that diagnosis will mean if it is one day made, i.e., science may have progressed to the point that what might look like a life-ending or life-shortening disease today in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years might be something that is curable or manageable and might become a chronic condition. So we need to be very cognizant of that when we see how genetic testing might be used. Now, I've already had the opportunity to speak to you at the Chicago meeting, so I won't belabor too many of the same points I've already made. But I will say this: when we look at the draft bill as it currently lies, we think it is again not strong enough. It does not go far enough. We do annual grades on various policies that impact the ALS community, and the bill as it currently lies, I believe, would grade a D. While that's again better than an F, it's not as good as we'd like to see it. And I know it's a tough uh, uh, choice to make or line to thread to make sure that we're not doing unintended harm, but we're still making some protections. From our perspective, advocating for our patient community, we would like to see a little bit of a stronger bill that not only, again, protects current enrollees, but also goes a little bit further to protect potential enrollees, as they already do in the state of Florida and have done for years, as they do in Canada, as they do in the UK, as they do in Australia. And in fact, there's multiple bills out there on this right now. In fact, Mr. Chairman, there's one that goes to committee in your home state of Massachusetts tomorrow that we think might be slightly a stronger language to protect this. And again, I have nothing but admiration and respect for Representative Carter for bringing this up, because we wouldn't be having this conversation, Representative, if you had not chosen to make this a priority. And we want it to be a priority in multiple states, throughout the country, to follow Florida's example. And it's our hope that, over these next however many weeks, that this language can be strengthened a bit more to, again, produce that floor that can be then built upon. But we don't want to make the floor too low. We'd love to see this get up to at least kind of a C in our grading platform, if not even greater than that, to ensure that it really does, strike a good balance between all sides. And again, I mean, our perspective is patients and consumers first, but we understand there's a lot of competing interests here. So I will stop there and say thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you, Alex. Next I will go to Lisa Schlager from Force, followed then Jill Rickard from ACLI. I'll go to you. Just for everyone on the call who is a legislator, I'm going to give the interested parties a moment first to make their presentations, and then we will go to an additional round of comment and questions from legislators. So if legislators could just please hold on for one moment while we get through all of the interested parties. All right, so Lisa, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Representative Carter, for spearheading this effort. We sincerely appreciate your interest in adding some protections. I want to again echo what Alex shared. We have worked very closely with the ALS Association. I work for FORCE. We're a national nonprofit focused on hereditary cancers, and the majority of our constituents do carry an inherited genetic mutation that is believed to increase the risk of cancer. Part of the reason I wanted to speak is because the research is evolving very quickly. And sometimes we have mutations that we thought conferred a very high risk of disease, and then the science comes back and says, oh, no, we made a mistake. Actually, the risk is much lower than we initially thought. And on the flip side, we have individuals who test negative for a known mutation in their families, and they're still denied insurance based on the family history, which I think what the problem here is that we have little or no transparency from the insurers as to how or why they're making these decisions. And we have no guarantee that the insurers are basing their decisions on the most current research and the most current information about the mutations. And so that leads to concerns for the consumers about how those decisions are being made. So I just want to point out again how complex this topic is, and that insurers did fine for many, many years without access to genetic testing information. It didn't exist. They based their decisions on family health history, and that was that. So this is really a new thing that's evolved in the past 10 or 15 years. And the reality is that the insurance industry did just fine before genetic testing was available. And just because an individual has a genetic test doesn't mean the person next to them doesn't have the exact same predisposition, but maybe they've chosen not to have a genetic test. So how do you level that playing field? You level it by removing the genetic test results from the decision making. So I know we've submitted comments on this, and we sincerely appreciate all of your time and consideration. But I just wanted to highlight some of the concerns. And again, we appreciate the committee's attention and dedication to representing consumers. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. And so I will then go to Jill Rickard from the ACLI, and then followed by that, we'll go to Jillian Brady and then Eric DuPont.
Thank you very much, Chair LaBeouf and Vice Chair Boyd and committee members for the opportunity to comment further in support of the proposed Model Act regarding life insurers' use of genetic information, and especially to Representative Carter for sponsoring the model and for really hearing out all of the concerns and working with all of the stakeholders in this process. We really appreciate it. ACLI, on behalf of its 275 member companies, support this model and think it represents a thoughtful, well-reasoned approach to life insurers' consideration of genetic information in underwriting. Most importantly, because it recognizes the importance of information symmetry between an applicant and an insurer. Information symmetry is the reason life insurance works and is crucial for it to remain affordable and accessible. I wanted to take this opportunity to respond to some of the comments made by the patient advocate groups in both their letters submitted to the committee recently and also made on this call today. First, ACLI agrees that a genetic marker does not guarantee disease onset or severity. Life insurers engage in a holistic evaluation of each applicant that accounts not only for genetic test results, but also other health factors, other test results, family history, lifestyle, and they reward proactive healthcare. If a medical record shows that an applicant is taking preventative actions to manage their risks, such as monitoring, medication, and interventions, the insurer will take this into account when setting the appropriate rate. In fact, genetic testing can help a person get a better rate. If a person has a family history of a disease and then undergoes the genetic testing to show they don't have the same genetic marker, then this factor will significantly improve their rate, and they will have a policy repriced to reflect it in the future. If they have a policy, they later get the genetic testing, they can ask for that policy to be repriced. Second, the advocates claim that life insurers are permitted to use genetic test results in underwriting decisions with little to no transparency. This is simply not true. Although life insurance rates are typically file and use, Insurers must submit detailed actuarial and financial data to state insurance departments to demonstrate that their rates are not excessive, inadequate, or unfairly discriminatory, and to ensure compliance with state regulations. Third, yes, genetic testing is new to the life insurance industry, and we have existed 100 years without using it, but it's also new to patients. And again, information symmetry is what's important here. Life insurers did not use the genetic test results, but also patients did not have the genetic test results 20 years ago. And the fact that we use them now and patients have them now really goes to that information symmetry that's crucial to the industry. And then finally, the claim that has been made that a high percentage of individuals decline to participate in genetic testing due to concerns about insurance discrimination. I just wanted to point out some research that shows that this is just not the case. A 2023 survey found that fewer than 0.1% of respondents cited any unprompted reluctance to take doctor-recommended tests because of concerns related to life insurance. The real concerns are convenience and confidentiality, not insurance. So again, ACLI members are committed to a robust and competitive life insurance market that offers a variety of products that are affordable and meet consumers' needs. We're able to provide this affordable coverage because applicants share, with consent, their complete medical records. The proposed model would enact reasonable guardrails that protect consumers and preserve access to affordable coverage. And we, again, encourage this committee to adopt it in its current form. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jill. So next, Jillian, and then Eric DuPont.
Thank you so much. Hi, all. My name is Jillian Brady. I am speaking on behalf of the National Society of Genetic Counselors. It's a professional society that is the leading voice for genetic counselors, representing over 5,000 members nationwide. We submitted comments on Friday, and we appreciate the committee's consideration of those comments and entering those into the record. First and foremost, we also echo the appreciation of Representative Carter and this committee bringing this important issue forward. It's timely. We agree that legislation, or this model legislation, if adopted, with some of the suggestions that we've recommended, would benefit Americans by bringing consistency and greater clarity to the protections that they can expect when it comes to the use of their genetic information, which, while they may not be specific to life insurance, as kind of was suggested by Ms. Frickard, they are generally a concern for consumers and Americans across the country. So anything that brings consistency and greater clarity to Americans, I think, can better and make those choices. We also echo Mrs. Schlager's and Mr. Mechner's comments. We believe minor changes to this legislation would significantly strengthen consumer protections and reduce that general fear of genetic discrimination, and ultimately will achieve what we really strongly believe is an important end goal, which is encouraging participation in genetic testing and research. Some of the things that we have suggested and noted in our comments are the benefit of broadening the definition of genetic information, potentially to reflect a little bit closely to what we see in existing federal standards. We think this is extremely important given how rapidly this research develops and how rapidly genetic information has evolved. So building in, or considering how to build in, a definition that allows for consideration of all of those various genetic testing and that genetic information is important. We also believe in kind of the suggestions that have been put forth by many of those that have commented, including Mr. Mexner and Ms. Schlager, in expanding those protections on the use of genetic information, not just in whole, or not just in part, but using it in whole, in coverage, denial, benefit limitations, premium settings, not just policy cancellations. We think this would go a long way to really protect the use of potentially the misuse of genetic information or misinterpreted genetic information. We also believe in expanding kind of the protections that exist for requiring prior express written and informed consent, making that separate from general medical authorizations. We believe this will kind of improve or go to improve that symmetry Ms. Frickard referred to. And we also strongly support, limiting life insurers' ability to request, encourage, coerce genetic testing. We think this is a decision that is deeply personal and should be made at the decision of the consumer based on what is best for them. So with that, I appreciate all of your we understand there's been a lot of debate on this topic, and we appreciate all of the thoughtful discourse that has gone into crafting the legislation as now and making changes to it. And we think it could be further strengthened by a few minor tweaks. And we appreciate this committee's consideration of our comments and really also leading on this effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'll turn it over to Eric Dupont, and if any legislators, we will then turn over to you for comments and questions. So if you would like to get in the queue, please use the raise hand function, and then we'll call on you in order in which they appear. So Eric, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Leboff, members of the committee, and a special thank you to Representative Carter for sponsoring this important model legislation. My name is Eric Dupont. I'm a colleague of Dr. Deborah Van Domelen, who you heard from in November at your fall meeting. Dr. Deb regrets she's unable to join you today. Like Dr. Deb, I'm here today on behalf of the American Council of Life Insurers. Understanding medical risks that could affect life expectancy, part of the underwriting process, is necessary for life insurers to meet commitments to policyholders for decades into the future, even though we only get one chance to set pricing. Underwriting benefits the vast majority of consumers by allowing insurers to offer the most coverage to the most people for the lowest price. That fact does not change when it comes to genetic information. Underwriting is not based on a single piece of information. Predicting life expectancy with any accuracy relies on a holistic approach. Therefore, our medical directors, MDs, consider treatments and interventions for inherited conditions in the same way they consider how well hypertension is managed with medication, for one example. And the MDs do stay up to date on the latest information. We want to sell insurance. We're not looking to put up roadblocks. Privacy is an important part of the discussion, and the proposed language offers several consumer protections, in addition to protections that already exist given the sensitive information insurers review as part of the medical records. So too is consent, which is an important and standard part of the existing insurance application process. We appreciate the efforts of NCOIL to weigh the risks of all policyholders. The current language is a reasoned approach to maintain appropriate matching of risk with pricing, keep insurance affordable to the most consumers, support access for those stretching to afford to protect their families, and to ensure the consent process maintains privacy. There was 2 points brought up by previous speakers I'd just like to try to address. One is that current enrollees losing coverage because of a genetic test. When we sell a life insurance policy, it's sold. We set the price. That's it. We don't re-underwrite as it goes along. And so I cannot think of a way that it would compromise coverage of somebody who is already covered by life insurance and we've already underwritten. As far as requesting this information, I'm not aware that any life insurers do request genetic tests. We look at what's in the medical record, and that's it. So thank you for allowing me time to speak with you today.
Great. Thank you, Eric. So now I'm going to open the floor to any legislators that have questions, and I see Representative Dietrich has a question or would like to make a statement.
Yeah. Thank you. And for things going on here in Wisconsin.
So, Representative Dietrich, we're having a little bit difficulty hearing you. Maybe if you shut off your video, that might help with the connection. And hopefully we'll get you back. But I'll just wait to see if there are any other legislators who want to get in the queue while Rep. Dietrich works on some of the tech issues.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Lang from Ohio. I'm not sure how to raise my hand.
Sure, I will go right back to you. I did I just Representative Tice, was that a raise hand function? So and then I'll go over to you, Senator Lang.
Thank you.
So Senator Tice, would you like to add any comments?
I would. I'm going to keep my camera off because things are crazy.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, while I appreciate the commentary from pushing back against this legislation, I asking for stronger, I guess I should say, asking for significantly stronger information. Insurers insure risk, not guarantee. So if I put a trampoline in my backyard, my rates go up not because there's a trampoline in my backyard, but because my risk went up. And so I think insurers have a right to understand risk, and I think they have a right to understand it with the most recent information available. I want to commend Representative Carter for bringing this forward. I think it's extremely important information that we have, but I think it's guardrails, not a prohibition from the usage that we need to focus on here. And so heads off. I think we're heading in the right direction, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Tice. I will then turn over to Senator Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I also would like to thank Brenda Carter for bringing this forward. Much appreciated. I am somewhat opposed to this legislation. Section D is the only reason why I think this may make some sense, but as someone who is fighting stage 4 colon cancer, who is a carrier of the Lynch syndrome, I believe the life insurance companies have the right to know as much information as they can before they take on a risk such as me. And I think it is important that we look out to protect citizens and constituents and future enrollees, but we also have to protect the life insurance industry, and we cannot ask them to take on unnecessary risk that will raise the rates for the entire population. So I would just encourage us not to consider anything that would make this legislation stronger, more anti the insurance companies, because we need a profitable insurance company in order to continue to offer their services. They need to be profitable and viable. So I just want to express my concerns. Plus, we don't know what future technology is going to come out tomorrow to really give them more more tools in their underwriting process. And I would just, I don't want to see us doing anything that puts handcuffs on the insurance companies as they try to make the best decision possible. And keep in mind, their goal is to sell insurance. They don't make money without collecting premiums. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I do apologize, but I have to head out in about 5 minutes.
No worries. Thank you, Senator Lang. Representative Carter, I see your hand is raised. And then if someone could let me know if Rep. Dietrich was able to make that back on, and if for some reason she isn't able to, Chris, if we could just make sure to collect her questions and we can send that to the interested parties.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would like to thank everybody for the work they've done, and the comments are very heartfelt. But regarding the argument that costs will increase for life insurers if they are restricted from using genetic information, did the Florida ban or the UK ban in Canada ban result in increased premiums? See, because one of the things that I'm looking at is balancing this. So we protect our consumers without raising costs and premiums. So was there any evidence that in Florida, the UK and Canada, those bans, did that result in increased premiums? And anybody can answer that on either side.
All right. Thank you. And great question, Representative Carter, because I do have another question that I'll ask after any other legislators, but I will, I saw Jill, I saw your hand up first, and then Lisa, I'll have you go second to respond to that.
Thank you, Representative Carter. That is a really great question. I think there are two different answers. First, in Florida, that is a brand new ban that's 4 years in effect. And because life insurance policies can be 10, 20, 30, 50 years out from the time they pay claims, it's really impossible to know at this point whether this will impact rates. In terms of Canada and the UK, their system for life insurance is entirely different. There is some mandatory minimum life insurance, which makes it different from our entirely voluntary market here in the US. You don't have to buy life insurance, but in Canada and the UK, you have to buy some minimum amount, which makes it more along the lines of a health insurance policy. So unfortunately, I don't think we can compare ourselves to those different countries.
Thank you, Jill. Lisa?
Thank you. And I agree that the systems in Canada and the UK are different. However, that said, we have research from Florida. The law is now going on 5 years old that has shown that the Florida insurance rates increased about 2% over recent years when the average increase is 6 to 8%. So obviously there has not been a rush on the market, and we have data to back that up. So early signs are that there's no significant impact, and in fact, definitely not a negative impact by banning the use of genetic information. I can't say what's going to happen long term, but we've heard, oh, there's going to be a rush on the market. People are going to cross state lines to purchase policies. We're not seeing that. Most people just want to ensure that their family is protected, that they can cover their mortgage or basic expenses. They're not really out there to scam the system. So, but early signs are that there's no significant impact.
Great, thank you. You would think since 2020, after we've all used Zoom, that I could figure out how to use a mute. When I'm probably one of the most tech savvy members of my caucus. But anyway, I do have a question. And again, if there are any other representatives who or senators who have any questions, please raise your hand and we'll definitely make sure to call on you. I
Mr.
do have
Chair,
yes.
I have Representative Dietrich's question when you're ready. I can
Okay, actually, why don't we do that first and then I'll ask my question after that.
Okay, her question is, have we checked that this model against the federal GINA, that's Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act, to make sure we're not missing anything?
Oh, great question. Jill, I see your hand raised.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to note that, and we have discussed this in a couple of past meetings, but the Congress made a decision when passing GINA that it would specifically not apply to life and long-term care insurers. And the reason for that is that we can't change our rates, unlike property and casualty or specifically health insurance to which GINA applies. Those rates are rewritten on an annual basis, and changes can be taken into account and then priced into the policy. Life insurers can't do that. We write a policy now that might be in effect for 50 years, and we are unable to reprice that policy. And it also, unlike health insurance, which is a sort of, while not mandatory, it is essential for people. Life insurers isn't a completely voluntary product. So for those couple of reasons, Congress made the decision specifically to exclude life insurance from GINA and the protections to be different.
Lisa, I'll go to you. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you. I feel like Jill and I are going to be bantering back and forth a little bit. So ultimately, it took 13 years to pass the Federal Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act. And initially, life, long-term care, and disability insurance were something that the community, the public wanted to see included. The only way that we were able to get the law passed was by removing those portions because of the opposition of the insurance industry. That said, the existing GINA law only addresses healthcare and employment. It does not address life, long-term care, or disability. So there is no overlap at all between the model bill and the existing federal law.
Thank you. So I have a question for anyone who's able to provide some insight on this. So in a scenario where if I were to, let's say someone were to apply for a life insurance policy and they were under the impression that they had a family history of breast cancer, but then they do genetic testing and find out that they actually do not have that genetic marker. So is there an opportunity for a kind of a re-underwriting, and how is that taken into account in regards to what rates are accepted? Are they allowed to have a better rate if, the initial policy was better? So I'd be interested in hearing about that. So Lisa, I saw your hand up first, and then Jill, I'll have you go after her. So thank you.
So as a person who has a mutation, I will say that it's a different scenario. I have a known mutation in my family. So if my daughter tests and she's negative, she should be able to get a policy just like the average risk population because she's negative for the mutation that I carry. However, if you have a family with no known mutation, testing negative for a genetic mutation doesn't mean anything because you don't know what is causing the risk in that family. Unfortunately, because this is very sophisticated, we do have some examples of people who have tested negative for a known mutation. There was an article in Forbes written by Ellen Matloff some time ago for somebody whose family had a heavy history of colorectal cancer. They had a known mutation. He tested negative for the mutation, but was still denied a policy based on that family history. And that just goes to show that the insurer doesn't really understand the implications or the science. But philosophically, yes, if you have a known mutation and a family member tests negative, they should be able to obtain a policy without being penalized for their family history.
Thank you. I would actually agree with most of what Lisa has said, except, one insurance company's denying you a risk does not mean that every insurance company will deny you a risk. That's why we have a competitive market. I'm not sure, I can't speak to that case and I can't speak to individual insurance companies underwriting policies, but I do know if you have a family history of breast cancer and that is the information that was available when a life insurer underwrote your risk, and you have a policy based on that or priced based on that fact, and then 20 years later you take a genetic test and it shows you don't have the genetic marker for that disease, then you can apply for a new policy with that new information. And if the rate is less, then you can take the new rate and you won't be penalized in any way. So that, I think, is specific in answer to your question. I will also say, if we're talking about the 2-year contestability clause for getting that genetic test, the contestability clause is really for fraud. If you had that information and didn't share it, it's not for if you just got a test within that period.
Great. Thank you very much. So I see, Professor Price, that you have your hand up, and then after that, I'll go to Representative Lilly.
Thank you so much, and apologies, it's a snow day and no daycare here, and so I was a little bit late. So I'm Anya Princeton. I had at the University of Iowa College of Law and had testified back in November. I just wanted to make one point about reapplying for life insurance if somebody discovers that they have a genetic test and they were underwritten on the basis of family history. I think the insurers have mentioned many times that they can only underwrite one time for the policy. But as Jill mentioned, somebody can apply 20 years later. Well, 20 years later, they're 20 years older. And so then they will have higher rates because they are older, or they could have developed a different condition. And so while I absolutely agree that on principle, a new application might take that into account, there are other things that could occur that could mean that that individual has lost the opportunity to have the lower rate application from the very beginning. Thank you for all of the work.
Great. Thank you. And I apologize for mispronouncing your name. As someone who does not have an easy name to pronounce, and yours is a lot easier than mine, I should have been aware of that. So,
no worries. It happens all the time.
All right, Representative Lilly, we'll turn over to you, and then we'll go back to Jill.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and I do apologize for jumping on a little late, but I just have 2 questions only because I jumped on a little late. The legislation we're talking about, its main purpose, can someone just kind of clarify the main purpose and what issues it's getting at? And then 2, broke my hand, I apologize for ouching there. And then 2, when it comes to health insurance, the families who are needing it are wanting to ensure.
A couple of weeks ago. Let me know.
Sorry, if everyone could please mute. Thank you. Go ahead, Representative.
Yeah. The constituents and the citizens I represent, the reason why they're needing health insurance is to have access to health care and quality of life. And so I am a little concerned that those who are in this space, the health insurance groups, understanding why they really are in this space. Is it just for the profit, or is it really creating access for care? And I am concerned about that because I hear it constantly that people don't have a lot of confidence in health insurance because of the pre-authorization, because of the denials and all that good stuff or bad stuff. But nevertheless, I just kind of want to be sensitive to what I get to hear from my constituents around why they have health insurance.
I'll go to Representative Carter first to respond to that. And then anyone else who wants to offer any commentary, feel free to raise your hand.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. First of all, this model legislation is addressing life insurance, and as one of the speakers mentioned earlier, it's a different way of evaluating risk with life insurance versus health insurance. But the main reason for this model legislation is to ensure that individuals are not treated unfairly and solely because of a genetic test, but it also prevents insurers from requiring applications to undergo testing, but it also protects the insurance industry to make sure that they're able to actuarially assess risk. So it's a gentle balance between the two. What we're doing with this model legislation is creating guardrails that protects the consumer and also protects the industry. This is the main purpose of this legislation. And once again, Representative, this is life insurance, which is a completely different animal than health insurance.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that explanation. I knew I fell a little short because but I did want to make my point based on one of the comments were made earlier. So thank you for that. And I will continue to listen intently. Thank you.
Now, I do want to toss it over to either side. Our two speakers that were so adamant from the life insurance and from the other side, if I got it right, you guys expound on it. But that's the gentle balance we're trying to reach with this legislation, to protect the consumers and also protect the insurers.
Thank you, Representative. All right, I see Alex, if you would like to add any additional comments. And again, if there are any other legislators who would like to ask any questions before we conclude this section, please make sure to use the raise hand function, and then I'll get back to you before we move on to the next item on our agenda.
So thanks again, Mr. Chair. And Rep. Carter, I think you summed it up just perfectly of what this bill, is seeking to do and the need to find that balance. And again, from our perspective, the key question here comes down to how you orient that balance from the beginning. And if we are in a new world with regard to genetic testing, right, where it didn't really exist 20 years ago, now every year, if you look at a graph of new conditions that are identified to have genetic links, it's going up and up and up, almost exponentially. So the number of us on this call that have some genetic link or predisposition to a disease, I don't know what that percent is today, but I guarantee in 10 years it'll be double. And in 30 years, it'll be nearly all of us, right? Everybody will have some genetic link to something or other. And so as we're entering into this accelerating world of genetic information that is going to be more and more widely available, from our perspective, I think we would be wise to start with the balance of saying, let's limit access to that information until we figure out how it can be responsibly used in a fair way for all sides, and especially for the individual consumers who are going to have less power in this dynamic than the companies that are offering the insurance. Now, to do the opposite, to say, okay, all this information is usable and we'll figure out additional guardrails as problems emerge down the road. Well, again, those solutions are going to be a little bit late to the party. They're going to be coming after problems have been identified, have been felt on the consumer end pretty significantly, until the legislative process can grind forward and again make spot fixes. We think it would be a better balance to start with saying we are going to set stronger limits on the use of this genetic information, and add in as we as a society get our heads around this new world in which we live, as opposed to saying we're going to start from a point of insurers can use anything and everything as much as they'd like, and then setting in additional guardrails as problems emerge. And I'll stop there. Thank you.
All right, just what last call for legislators with any additional comments? All right, and Lisa, I saw your hand up, so I will give you the last comment unless there's anyone else that wants to add to this very briefly, and then we'll turn it over to Representative Carter for concluding remarks.
Thank you. I'll make it quick. So just to build on what Alex mentioned, in essence, this legislation and similar legislation is codifying the ability of the insurers to use this information. And ultimately, it's going to be very difficult to reverse that in the future, versus if it was the opposite. And if we said, hey, let's not use this right now, let's not allow it, and then we can reassess in the future, I think that would make more sense given that the science is evolving so quickly. So again, we are in support of some stronger guardrails that are more aligned with some of the comments that have been received. And if the committee members have not had the opportunity to read those comments, I sincerely appreciate, you taking the time to do so. You've received comments from professional genetics societies that do this day in and day out. So they are really experts in this arena, in addition to the patient advocacy groups. But thank you again for your time and consideration. And again, Representative Carter, for your leadership.
All right, Representative Carter, do you have any concluding remarks?
Well, basically, once again, thanking everyone for their passionate comments and work on this for the past year. And I did want to express the fact that NCOIL creates these models, but the states ultimately have what they want to do, whether they want to accept the model, whether they want to modify it, or whether they don't want to use it at all. This is just trying to standardize and put guardrails around something that has no guardrails, and as many people mentioned, is evolving rapidly. So once again, I appreciate everybody's concerns, their comments, their supports, and we look forward to talking to everybody in Louisville.
Thank you very, very much, Representative. And again, looking forward to this continued conversation. And thank you, everyone, for your engagement. If you do have any additional comments or questions, please reach out to the sponsor, Representative Carter. You can also reach out to myself or any other members of the committee or any of the interested parties to get more information. And really confident that we'll be in a good place in April to have this discussion continue and hope and have a vote. Next on our agenda is an opportunity for comment and discussion on model laws that are scheduled for readoption by the committee at the upcoming spring meeting in April. The committee has 3 model laws that are scheduled for consideration of readoption. As a reminder, per NCOIL bylaws, all NCOIL model acts are scheduled to be considered for readoption every 5 years. If a model is not readopted, it sunsets. The models that are up for readoption in front of this committee in Louisville are, and let me pull my full list up. The Beneficiaries Bill of Rights, the Life Insurance Consumer Disclosure Model Act, and the Long-Term Care Tax Credit Model Act. I do want to note that these models will not be voted on for readoption today. Rather, this is an opportunity for any initial comments and discussions on these models in advance of the meeting in April, where the actual vote will take place. So by the time of the April meeting, we'll also have some information in which states have adopted any of these models. So first, I would like to start with the Beneficiaries Bill of Rights. Are there any interested parties that have any comments or questions on this model? Please use the raise hand function on Zoom, and I will call on you in the order that I see the hand raised. All right, seeing none. Are there any legislators that have any comments on this model? All right, seeing none on that, we will move on next to the Life Insurance Consumer Disclosure Model Act. Are there any interested parties that would like to offer any comments on this act? All right, seeing none, I'll also turn that over to any legislators that would like to offer any comment on this act. All right. With that, we will move on to the third and final model, which will be considered for readoption at our committee meeting in April. It is the Long-Term Care Tax Credit Model Act. Are there any interested parties that have any comments on this model act? All right, and then we'll move on. Are there any legislators that have any comments on that model act? All right. So we will move on now to any other business. Is there any other business that anyone on this call would like to raise before the committee? I would also like to just remind everyone about registration for the spring meeting that's coming up in Louisville. Please be sure to register and book your hotel as soon as you can because the room block is filling up fast and there is limited availability. So if you have not registered already and plan to be with us in Louisville, please do so as soon as possible. So again, if anyone has any other comments, please raise your hand. All right. Hearing no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting and then a second so that we can move on to a voice vote.
Carl Anderson, so move.
All right. Motion by Representative Anderson.
Justin Boyd, second.
All right. Second by Vice Chair Boyd. Any other, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. Any opposed? All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you everyone for your participation. I know this this was a strain for many, especially with the weather going on up here in the Northeast, but I hope everyone is safe and I look forward to seeing you all in Louisville. And again, any questions at all in the interim, please reach out to myself, Representative Carter regarding her model act, and then any of the members of the NCOIL staff. Have a great rest of the afternoon.
You too.
Bye all.